Welcome into another bonus episode here on Hockey Inside Out. We talk about the Mike Matheson trade for Jeff Petry, also Ryan Poehling involved in a fourth-round pick. Gentlemen, how do we rate this now with Matheson back fully ready to go as he's been the last few weeks?
Well, I'm really regretting the loss of Ryan Poehling, right up at the top of my mind here. So up at the top, that if you guys hadn't reminded me, I wouldn't have remembered he ever played here. A one-game wonder and gone. Thank God. No, this is the kind of deal that makes you better. It's like, what were you thinking, Penguins? And congratulations, Kent Hughes. You just look. I would have to ask him, but what was Ron Hextall thinking? He got a player who's 6 years older, approximately $1.5 million more per season, still for the next 2 years on the contract. He gave up a guy of, let's say at their prime, roughly equal abilities, who's 6 years younger, cheaper. And, the big win in the whole thing for me is that the Canadiens got a player who really wants to be here, who grew up here, whose wife presumably doesn't think that Quebec is the equivalent of Vladivostok, who wasn't cheering on the convoy from the sidelines. It's just one of the biggest wins I've ever seen. And the beautiful part of this to me is that this is a trade they won with Petry coming and going. Well, one of the biggest wins for Bergevin was getting him in 2015 for a couple of, I think, lower round draft choices. And then they won again when they got rid of him and got Matheson, who to me has been just a revelation. He's so good. We even got 2 Savardian spinoramas last night in the overtime. Neither of them worked, and I kind of wondered if he should have tried them. But just the fact that he can do it so often last night, a couple of times you see the wingers breaking down the right side, and all of a sudden you realize that's not the winger, that's Matheson. And, he can do all these things. I would rate him at least on a par with Petry or a little bit better as far as skills are concerned. His stats this year, given that he's played fewer games, are a bit better. But mainly you get a guy who wants to be here, who's just so happy to be here, so much part of this organization. For a team that's occasionally a problem, having people who just hate it here, find this as strange, weird culture on the other side of the earth, to have a guy like that is so valuable. And to me, every time somebody asks me about Kent Hughes, I say the same thing. The coolest thing that I've heard out of Kent Hughes since he became GM was, first, he's so transparent about his thinking processes and what he does. But he was talking about the process that led to this trade. And, this is a guy, he's known him since he was a kid. He's represented him. I mean, what more do you need? Any other GM would pick up the phone and say, make the trade. He called Chris Letang to get Letang's opinion on it. This is a guy who touches every possible base. He doesn't do stupid, impulsive things like buy a red suit and grow his hair long and run down onto the ice to kiss a player after a playoff win. But to me, it's one of the most impressive things he's done. And now that he's healthy and we can actually see the guy in action, what a win for the Canadiens. Huge.
It's crazy to think that as good of a skater as Jeff Petry was, Mike Matheson is a significantly better skater. He's one of the better skaters I've seen in the NHL, and that's saying something. It's not just about straight line speed. It's ability to adapt to dynamic scenarios. And you're talking about spinoramas. I was impressed that in 3-on-3 overtime, he laid a hit. Who finds a way to catch somebody in 3-on-3 overtime unsuspectingly and lays a hit? And I'm pretty sure it was like Sebastian Aho or something too. Not an easy player to line up. So I've been impressed with Mike Matheson offensively and defensively. His stick is really good. I think when he first came back the first time, he was a little bit messy, having not played for so long, but he's really settled down. He takes risks, but they're calculated. He's a really, really good player. And I think this trade, you mentioned the age gap and also the amount of time that Matheson is signed for. I think it's 3 more years after this one, at a crazy low cap hit. Like, it's an excellent contract that he signed way back with the Florida Panthers that didn't look good for a stretch there, but he's really come along. And I know his brother, I worked with him at Sport Logic back in the day. They're a really nice family. Obviously Montrealers, that helps as well, but just everything that you get from Matheson's is perfect right now. And it's why those rumors that came out around the trade deadline that they were thinking about shopping him were crazy to me, because, I mean, unless you're getting an absolute king's ransom, there's no reason to trade this guy right now. He's almost the perfect candidate to continue through this rebuild and help the youngsters along and show them how to be dynamic in this St. Louis system or St. Louis concepts without taking too many risks.
Well, it was Kent Hughes who negotiated that contract for Matheson in Florida. It was a $39 million deal. And the thing, he's such a smart, nice guy, apart from being a great hockey player. And you want him in the room because he was a first-round pick, and he really struggled early in his career in Florida. So he can really relate to what these young defensemen on the Canadiens are going through. He really can. And, you're talking about it was Georges Larac who had said before the trade that he had heard that Matheson's going to be traded and they're going to get a first-round pick. I'm thinking to myself, why would you trade? Like, it didn't make any sense to me. And I know George. I like George. I know he has contacts in Edmonton, and I imagine it was through Edmonton. I'm sure the Oilers would have loved to get Matheson, but it would have taken a king's ransom, I think, for Kent Hughes to give him up, especially since their connection. He was Matheson's agent from the time he was like 15 years old, representing him. So I couldn't wrap my head around that happening, just because he's so valuable to this team. As you say, it's a great contract. He loves being in Montreal. His wife, who's from Buffalo, and he met her when he was playing at Boston College. She played for the women's team. She's a U.S. Olympian. She has a gold medal. She's happy to be here. She's from Buffalo. His parents are here. The in-laws are close to help with the young kid. They're living in Old Montreal. They're loving the city. They're happy to be here. He doesn't want to go anywhere else. I mean, if Nick Suzuki wasn't already captain of the team, Mike Matheson would be a really strong candidate to be captain of this team. The fact that, plus he's bilingual, his parents sent him to not French immersion school, but they sent them to French elementary school. All the kids when they were young, it's paying off now. I can't stop saying good things about Mike Matheson. And when, he missed a big chunk of the season with that abdominal injury, and then he had the groin injury. And I had a buddy of mine who kept texting me after games, Matheson sucks. He's horrible. Why did they get him? He's no good. And I kept saying, he's not healthy. His whole game, or a lot of his game, is based on his skating. As you said, Andrew, he's one of the best skaters in the NHL. Now that he's healthy, and he never gets tired. I mean, I think he played 4 minutes of the 5-minute overtime against Carolina.
Oh, yeah, I was waiting for them to take him off the ice, and it never happened.
But it didn't look like he was sucking wind.
Yeah.
And Marty St. Louis has said this also, he doesn't get tired. He's in incredible shape. And I think back, I remember talking with his dad. I know his dad a bit. And this is when he was still with the Panthers. And, Mike was a really top prospect coming out of midget AAA. He was captain of the St. Louis Lions team, where Jonathan Drouin was his teammate. And they were trying to decide if he was going to go the college route or if he was going to go junior hockey. And they went and visited some colleges. They went and visited some junior teams. And his dad thought maybe Mike was leaning towards junior because he would play more games. And then they went to visit one of the junior teams, and they came back, and his dad laid out the schedule of that junior team for the next season, the 78 games or whatever junior teams played. And I said, okay, look at that schedule and tell me when you're going to go to the gym. Look at that schedule and tell me how many nights you're going to get a good night's sleep. And that sort of resonated with Mike. And so he went to Boston, and he played 34 games or whatever a year, but he was in the gym every day. And you look at him now, I mean, he's in incredible shape. And now that he's healthy, he doesn't get tired. And that decision obviously paid off for him. And I'm happy for him because his family's over the moon to have their son back. Matheson talked earlier this season about, he remembers his dad would take the kids to one game a year. They didn't have a ton of money. They weren't poor, but they didn't have a ton of money. And it's expensive to go to the Bell Center, as you know, Andrew, from taking your son recently. But they'd go to one game a year. And Mike is pinching himself, and his parents are, Mike's looking up in the seat saying, I used to sit there when I was a kid. And his parents are now at the game saying, it's a really, really good story. And now that he's healthy, we're seeing just what a good hockey player he is.
Well, just to wrap it up here, I mean, let's think about Jeff Petry towards his end in Montreal. He was miserable, right? Because of the whole COVID-19 vaccination status, and he wasn't happy. And you bring in Mike Matheson, it's a breath of fresh air for everyone to enjoy. And so you've mentioned in your article many times, he's embraced the culture. He's happy to be back here. One of the very few Quebecers who want to play for the organization and represent the CH to the fullest. And you have to hope that maybe that could be the opening for other local area products to come back to Montreal to see Matheson succeed and perhaps be a part of that whole revolution under Martin St. Louis moving towards the next 3-4 years. So we'll find out.
I don't think Petry minded being in Montreal. His wife didn't like being here. I think for Jeff, he was fine. That's what's that saying, happy wife, happy life. His wife wasn't happy, and so that led to him getting out of town.
Yeah, I think Jeff's consternation came from them not being together, right? When the family's apart for 5-6 months at a time. I can't imagine that. Like, I don't understand how he was able to play and maintain his mental health at all, being away from his family for that long.
Yeah, and Jeff's a family guy. I mean, you'd see him with his sons all the time, and it was a tough situation for him. But I mean, Jeff Petry didn't hate playing in Montreal. It's just his wife wasn't happy here, and as a result, he wasn't happy here, as you mentioned, Andrew, because he was separated from his family.
Well, Mike Matheson is happy being here, and we'll see what happens with him moving forward with this franchise, as we might see a few more spinoramas by him moving towards the next couple of years here with the Montreal Canadiens. That'll do it for this bonus episode of Hockey Inside Out. Don't forget to submit your questions and comments. Look forward to conversing about that on the future episode. And check out the YouTube page for all of the Hockey Inside Out episodes as well. And sign up for the newsletter on MontrealGazette.com/newsletters. And for bonus episodes and full content, head on by Hockey Inside Out. On behalf of Stu, Andrew, and Jack, I wish you a great week. Speak to you soon. Bye for now.